a so-called riot took place last night in Brooklyn after there was a vigil held in response to a 16-year-old boy being shot by NYPD. Now, the details of this case are very, very sketchy, but from what we know, from the evidence that's been provided so far, plainclothes cops approached a group of teenagers, and a 16-year-old by the name of Kimani Grey was there. The cops allege that Kimani Grey reached for a gun, and as a result, they shot him 11 times. They shot him in his torso and in his legs. Now, witnesses there said that he did not have a gun, but cops said that he did have a gun, and it was a .38 caliber weapon. As a result, that's why they shot. They said they did so in self-defense. So there's a lot of he said, she said, because the cops are saying one thing, witnesses are saying another thing, and there needs to be a thorough investigation to really determine what actually happened, and it needs to happen from an independent investigation, not from, you know, an internal investigation within the NYPD. Some people are complaining, hey, listen, they shot him 11 times, and in fact, we had Michael Skolnick on from Global Grind, who's been covering this really well, on the current show, and he said, look, even if you reach for a gun, they shouldn't have shot him 11 times. I actually disagree with that, okay? Look, if he had a gun and he reached for it, now look, but there's a really important distinction. First of all, yes, then you shoot him 11 times, 110 times, doesn't matter. If somebody's reaching for a gun, of course you let the cops shoot him. That's exactly the situation where the cops need to shoot someone, otherwise they're gonna get shot, right? But, you know, obviously we have to determine whether he did or did not have one. But the other important part is whether they were uniformed officers or not. Because if people come up to you and they say, and they draw on you, and you don't know that they're cops, maybe they said freeze, and that would be very relevant to the investigation, right? Because freeze is something the cops normally say. But does that mean they know for sure that it's a cop? And did they draw the guns first, the cops? Did they draw them second? We don't know. But if guys who are not clearly cops come up to you and draw guns, it would be a fairly normal reaction for Kimani Grey to draw a gun if he had one. Now, he shouldn't have one in the first place, if you ask me, right? Mm-hmm. But so it's a messy situation. It definitely is a messy situation. And also keep in mind that if, you know, undercover cops come up to you and they say freeze, I mean, that's something that a robber would say to you, you know, if they want to rob you, you know. Yeah, that's a little old school, but yeah, it could happen. And look, I know in that situation I had in Hoboken where I was arrested, it was undercover cops, and we had no idea that they were cops. So these guys come and start verbally harassing us and basically trying to intimidate us. And they say, oh, we're cops. And the reason I got arrested, which was expunged from my record because it was totally wrong, was because I asked for a badge. But you're not in a uniform. How do I even know you're a cop, right? Yeah. And so I feel for Kimani, I mean, he's dead now, right? And if they were not dressed as police officers, then they have the obligation to be incredibly clear about the fact that they're police. And again, these are all details that we don't know at this point. So of course, and the cops could be totally justified. Maybe they were very clear. Maybe there was a gun, etc. Now, there was a vigil on last night in Brooklyn for Kimani, and everything was going along fine. And then people got angry. Apparently, one of the reasons they got angry because no local officials showed up, and nobody came to talk to the community about what went wrong, etc. So they were mad. And they started chanting things like NYPD, KKK, how many kids did you kill today? So that's a pretty harsh chant, obviously. And then what happened next was what some in the media are calling a riot, but no matter what you call it, it was totally wrong. It was absolutely wrong. And there were a number of witnesses that did say to media what happened, what they saw. Apparently some of the people from the Vigil went into a Rite Aid. One of the customers at the Rite Aid had a glass bottle thrown at his head. The police basically had to break it up. It got very, very violent. Car windows were broken. There was some vandalism. And they stole a bunch of stuff from the Rite Aid, including from the cash register, about $1,000 if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So obviously that's wrong under all circumstances. But that leads to the question of, wait, especially in a case that's so unclear, why are people so angry about this? Because my guess is that they're not that angry necessarily about Kimani Grey, although they knew him, so obviously those people were angry about that in particular. But overall, the community is angry because of stop and frisk. They're tired of being harassed time after time and being picked on, and when you see the numbers, you see why. Now look, in 2011 alone, this is amazing, over 684,000 stops, 87% of the stops for stop and frisk were were black or Hispanic, and only 9% white. Now, if New York was 87 black or Hispanic, then you say, all right, that makes sense. Well, let me give you the New York numbers. In reality, New York is actually 44% white, only 25.1% black, and 27.5% Latino. So you can see why the minority communities are incredibly frustrated with stop and frisk. And so here's another situation that looks like cops coming up to question black kids in New York again, and he's only 16 years old. And a lot of the people in the community said 13, 14, 15-year-olds getting harassed. And then situations like this happen because they keep doing it over and over to minority communities. That doesn't justify anything that happened last night in Brooklyn, but understand the context of why people are so angry. Yeah,
I could totally understand why people are so angry. But also, you have to keep in mind there are other details of the story that are worth mentioning. Cops say that, first of all, he did have a criminal record, the 16-year-old. Sources say that young Grey had a previous criminal record, including charges for breaking into a car, possession of stolen property, grand larceny, and rioting. So there's that. And also, this is all alleged by the police, okay? So I have no confirmation on this, but they're saying that he was featured in 2 YouTube videos indicating that he was part of the Bloods, and in one video, he was assaulting a 13-year-old. Okay, right. So
here's what I do not believe. I do not believe that the cops had already seen those YouTube videos and saw him in the street and went up to him because of the YouTube videos they had watched earlier. Here's what I believe. After they shot him, they went and tried to dig up as much dirt as possible on him, and then they came across these YouTube videos and were like, you see that? The kid was beating up 13-year-olds, etc. Now, I'm not defending Kimani Grey. I don't know him, and if he had a gun, like I said already, they're justified in shooting him, right? But what I do know is the stop and frisk policy is creating tension in the community. Remember, you're supposed to be helping and protecting the community. So it's not working